Hi guys, welcome back to the desktop for another rules breakdown, and this time I'm going to do the first edition Star Wars role-playing game by West End Games. And one of the more popular videos on my channel is a how to play Star Wars D6, but that concentrated mainly on the second edition revised expanded rules, which are slightly different, but we're going to be covering a lot of the same ground here as it's still the D6 system and it's still very similar. Skills in first edition Star Wars are rolled against target numbers. Now, if we flick to page 30 of the rulebook, we can see the samples difficulty levels. So we've got difficulty numbers here. Very easy tasks are a difficulty of 5. Examples: firing a blaster at point blank range, knowing that Wookiees are called Wookiees, putting a restraining bolt on a droid. Easy task, difficulty 10, things which are a little tougher, but most characters should be able to do most of the time. Examples: firing a blaster at short range, knowing that Wookiees use bowcasters, replacing a droid's visual sensors. Moderate tasks are difficulty 15. Things that require a little skill and effort are difficulty 15. Examples: firing a blaster at medium range, knowing that Wookiees like to win, fixing a droid's servo motors. We're up to difficult tasks, which are a 20. Things that are pretty tough, that require a lot of skill and maybe a little luck too. Examples: firing a blaster at long range, knowing that the customs and eating habits of Wookiees, reconditioning a badly worn and damaged droid. And finally, we've got very difficult tasks, which are a difficulty of 30. Something that requires great expertise, real effort, and complete dedication, a difficulty 30. Examples: firing a blaster at long range at someone dodging, being able to eat a meal with Wookiees while obeying all of their customs and conversing fluently and at length with your hosts. Rebuilding a droid that's been blown to smithereens by stormtroopers. So that's the different difficulty levels. And if I grab the Star Wars Sourcebook here and flip to Chewbacca, who we'll use as our sample character, we can see that he has various skill types here. So under his dexterity, we've got bowcaster, blaster, brawling, parry. Now his bowcaster's 90, his blaster's 5 dice plus 2, and his brawling parry is 70, and so on and so forth. He's got right through to his starship repair and his weapon repair. And if he's using one of these skills, he rolls that number of dice. So for his bowcaster, we put aside 9 dice. But if he's only firing a blaster, when, for example, he takes the stormtrooper blaster rifles when they're on the Death Star, he's only rolling 5 dice plus 2. Now the plus 2 is just a number which is added at the end. So Chewbacca's firing his blaster rifle, we roll 5 dice, and we have 16 plus 2, so he has an 18, which is a good roll. It succeeds in moderate, but does not achieve in a difficult task. So he would probably hit a target, depending on their dodge. But that's how the skills work. If you don't have a skill, for example, Chewbacca here does not have lightsaber skill, then you just use the base stat. So lightsaber comes under dexterity, and Chewbacca's dexterity is only 2 dice plus 2. So roll 2 dice, we get a 6, we add 2, so he only gets an 8. So he's really only achieving a very easy task. He's into the easy category there. Initiative in Star Wars First Edition is a little strange because it operates in 2 sweeps. You've got the declaration phase and then you've got the action phase. So before anybody actually gets to go, you go around everybody at the table and they have to declare what they're doing. So we come to Chewbacca, we ask him what he's going to do, and he says he's going to shoot. And let's flip over another page and we'll say we're using Mon Mothma here. Then we ask her what she's going to do, and she's going to avoid being shot by Chewbacca because they're fighting for some reason, and she's going to run out of the room. Now, the declarations are made in order of perception from the lowest to the highest. So Chewbacca's got a 2 dice perception, and Mon Mothma's got a 4 dice perception. So Chewbacca has to say what he's going to do. Then Mon Mothma gets to react to what's being done, because she gets to see that Chewbacca's going to shoot at her, for example. So because she's got a higher perception, she's noticed it's going on. So you declare from the lowest perception to the highest perception. And then when you reach the action phase, it's actually based on the skill roll. So Mon Mothma's running away, so she's rolling her 3 dice, and she only gets 4. She only gets 9, sorry. And Chewbacca is shooting. Let's say he's still using his blaster. He gets 20 there. 10, 8, and then the +2 from his blaster skill. So he gets 20. Well, the 20 is higher, so he gets to act first, before Mon Mothma's dexterity roll for running out of the room. So he does get to shoot, because he acts first. And that's the way it's done. The higher skill roll, everybody tends to act together, but if characters are acting against each other, or against non-player characters, then the higher skill roll gets to act first. Now, as we've seen, combat skill rolls are just skill rolls, so we're rolling a number of dice against a target number. So Chewbacca managed to roll 20. So he's managed to hit a close target or a short-range target. But Mon Mothma, who he's shooting at for whatever reason, gets to roll her dodge. Now, her dodge is 5 dice, but she's already taking an action, which is to run out of the room. Now, she gets to act as many dodges as she wants, but each time she loses a dice. So because she's already acted by running, she's only going to roll 4 dice. So we roll those 4 dice, and she gets a very nice 15. So Chewbacca only got a 20. So now, because her dodge adds on to the difficulty, he's actually only got the equivalent of a 5. So he would only hit her if she's basically at point-blank range. Even if she's at short range, he's now missed. She's dodged out of the way. And if she was getting shot at by somebody else, she'd get to take another dodge, but this time she'd only roll 3 dice, 2 dice, and then for another one, 1 dice. And that's how combat works. You're rolling against the target number to hit the range, and somebody can dodge, and it adds to them, but for multiple actions, they lose a dice each time. Now, if you're dodging before you get to act, of course, the number of dice you've spent dodging comes off your action. So it makes a difference if somebody's going first then. And for melee combat, brawling, you're not using your dodge skill. You're using your brawling parry or your melee parry if you're armed with a weapon. So you cannot dodge close combat attacks. You can only parry them. And you use a separate skill which you need to have for that. And so we're on to damage in Star Wars. And if we flick over to the equipment, we can see that each weapon has a damage type. So Chewbacca's using a blaster rifle, which is 5 dice damage. If he was using a hunting blaster or a conventional slug thrower, he'd be rolling less dice. A hunting blaster was 4 dice, a slug thrower is only 3 dice. And you roll those 5 dice. So Chewbacca rolls those, and what do we get? We get 16. So 16 dice has been done to Mon Mothma. Now Mon Mothma has a strength of 2 dice. We'll assume she's not wearing any armor. So she gets to roll 2 dice. And she gets quite a brilliant roll there of 10. So only 6 has got through. Now those 6 points, we need to look up the main rule book. So we'll put this to the side. And we flip to page 13. And we can see that shooting damage, strength roll greater than damage roll, they're stunned. So even if you manage to take the damage, you resist it by rolling more on your strength, you're still stunned and you lose an action. If your damage roll is greater than or equal to the strength roll, but less than 2 times your strength roll, so she rolled 10, she's taken a wound. Damage roll at least 2 times the strength roll, but less than 3 times, should be incapacitated. And damage roll at least 3 times strength roll, mortally wounded. So that's how damage works. It depends on the actual roll you make. So she made a strength roll of 10. So the damage she's taken is only more than that. So she takes a wound. If you'd managed to roll 20 to 30, then she'd have been incapacitated. And if she'd rolled higher than that, she'd have been mortally wounded. So a bad roll can actually take you down very, very quickly in the Star Wars system. Now, flicking on to the wounds and healing section, we can see that your health is basically counted as your wound effects. So you've got wounded, incapacitated, and mortally wounded. And your characters only really have those. So you can take a stun, which removes your action for this round. You can take a wound, where all your skill rolls are reduced by 1d. You can become incapacitated, where you fall unconscious. Or you become mortally wounded, where you're down on the ground and basically bleeding out, and you'll have to die unless somebody successfully medics you. And that's the wound categories. There are only 4. And the defense is totally based on your strength. Now, heal up from them based on your natural healing, or being used by medic packs or rejuvenation tanks, back to tanks. Sometimes a character can't go to a rejuvenation tank. In this case, make a strength attribute roll for the character once per day, starting the day after the injury. So, she was wounded, and she rolls her strength, and she gets 6. Now, that means she actually drops to incapacitated. Her wound has hurt her, and she becomes incapacitated. If she'd rolled particularly well, if she'd rolled a 12 or higher, she would have actually healed up completely. And med packs allow you to heal up quicker by rolling against target numbers. Med pack is a package of drugs, synth flesh, and coagulants. Any character with medicine skill can attempt to use a med pack. The difficulty using the med pack depends on the severity of the wound, as summarized on the healing table, page 140. So we flick on to page 140. Wherever page 140 is. Right at the back here, healing table. There we go. Medpack difficulty. So somebody treating her for her wound only needs to get a 10. So let's have a look and see what could Chewbacca heal her up. He has a medicine of 5 dice. So he rolls 5 dice, and all he needs to do is get a 10, and he will heal her up using a med pack. And he gets a 14. So he could easily med pack Mon Mothma of her wound and heal her up completely. And the other wounds are depending on that. So if she's incapacitated, he would need to get a 15. If she was mortally wounded, she would have needed to get a 20. And that's how health is handled. You have the 4 levels, and you can treat up from them, or you can heal naturally once per day from them. Advancement in Star Wars First Edition is done through skill points, which I believe are dealt with quite early in the book. There they are, page 15. At the end of an adventure, the Game Master may assign you skill points. The better you did in the adventure, the more skill points you receive. You get them for doing great deeds, for outwitting your opponents, and for playing your role well. You can spend skill points to increase your skill codes. You can never increase your attribute codes. So unlike the second edition, you cannot increase your attributes. You can only increase your skills. Increasing a skill of 2 dice costs 2 skill points. So basically the dice code. So a skill of 2 dice costs 2 points and increases it to 2 dice plus 1. Increasing a skill of 2 dice by 1 pip increases the skill code to 2 dice plus 1. Increasing the skill of 2 dice plus 1 costs 2 points and increases it to 2 dice plus 2. Increasing the skill of 2 dice plus 2 costs 2 points and increases it to 3 dice. And then it costs 3 skill points after then to increase it each pip. So Chewbacca, increasing his bowcaster skill of 9 dice, would actually need to spend 9 skill points to increase it to 9 dice plus 1. And once he eventually reaches 10 dice, then it will cost him 10 skill points to increase it further on. And that's as simple as advancement is, that you're buying the skills up by spending amount of skill points equal to the dice code. And that is a very brief look over the first edition Star Wars rules. It's a very simple system, and I do like it. I actually much prefer the second edition, the edition of the wild dice, where if you roll a 6 on your wild dice, you roll an add, allowing for spectacular successes and spectacular failures. Does add a lot of storytelling ideas. But the first edition Star Wars is a very lovely game. Since it got re-released by Fantasy Flight Games, it's available again, so you can probably pick up a copy if you want to play, unlike the second edition, which you can probably have to scour eBay or the like. But I highly recommend it, and I hope this is of use to anybody who wants to have a go at Star Wars First Edition. As always, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.